Her "just for tea" turned into relatives arriving with suitcases like they owned the place. Then they started rearranging my home and handing me rules. Los Angeles, California. In LA, everyone is in motion. Even the quiet streets have a hum, like the city is always warming up for the next scene. I worked IT support for a mid-size logistics company near Vernon, one of those jobs where you're constantly fixing things that break because someone just clicked something. I liked it because problems had logic. Cables, passwords, tickets, timestamps. Even when people lied, the system remembered. My marriage wasn't like that. My wife, Aisha, was Pakistani-American. That meant community was never just background noise. It was a living thing. It fed you when you were sick, showed up when you moved, and also watched everything you did like it could be graded. When we first got together, I thought it was beautiful. A kitchen full of aunties laughing, cousins popping in unannounced, older men arguing about nothing and everything. It felt like warmth. Then it became pressure. We had one son, Zane, 9 years old, bright kid, quiet when he sensed tension, the kind of child who reads adult faces before he speaks. He loved science videos, hated loud voices, and kept his small collection of Lego pieces sorted by color like it mattered more than anything. Aisha used to joke that he got that from me. "He likes systems," she'd say, smiling. She stopped smiling about it once she decided my systems were control. It started with small things. The way she'd correct me in front of people, the way she'd answer questions for me like I was slow, the way she'd sigh dramatically when I said we needed boundaries. But the real shift came after Eid that year, when her mother hugged me too tight and whispered, "We need to fix the home." Fix? Like we were a broken appliance. Aisha's mom, Farah, lived in Newark with Aisha's younger sister, Sana. They visited LA a couple times a year, usually for weddings, community events, or family emergencies that weren't emergencies, just expectations. That week, Aisha told me they wanted to come by for tea, to see Zane, to feel connected. "Just tea," she said, almost too casual. "Don't be weird." I wasn't weird. I was tired. I'd spent half my Friday on hold with a vendor because our warehouse scanners kept dropping off the network, then came home to a kitchen sink full of dishes and Zane asking me if I could help him build a mini volcano for Science Day. We had normal life. I wanted it quiet. Saturday morning, I woke up early to the sound of Aisha moving around the apartment like she was preparing for a photo shoot. She wiped already clean counters. She arranged the couch pillows. She set out a tray of cups we only used when her family visited. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her face had that particular calm that meant she'd already decided how the day would go. "Your mom texted?" I asked. "She's on her way," Aisha said without looking at me. I blinked. "For tea?" "For tea," she repeated, still not looking at me. Zane wandered in wearing mismatched socks, rubbing his eyes. "Are Nana and Kala coming?" he asked. "Maybe," Aisha said, and I caught the tiny hesitation. "Just be sweet." Zane nodded like he'd been given a test. Then he looked at me, nervous. "Dad, can we do the volcano before they come?" "Yeah," I said. "We'll do it before—" A knock hit the door. Not gentle. Not high. A firm, confident knock like the person behind it was annoyed the door existed. Aisha's eyes flicked to the time on her phone and she exhaled as if she'd been waiting for exactly that moment. She walked to the door and unlocked it without asking who it was. The door swung open and in stepped Farah, already talking before both feet were inside. Sana followed behind her, dragging a rolling suitcase. Then came a cousin I barely knew, Imran, carrying 2 more bags like he was moving in. I stared at the luggage. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile, "this is more than tea." Farah swept her eyes over the living room like an inspector. "We had a long flight," she said, as if that explained everything. "We?" I asked. Sana rolled her eyes like I was slow. "We decided to stay a few nights," she said, breezy. "It's better than a hotel. Family is family." Aisha stepped aside, letting them in. She didn't look at me. That was the first quiet horror, the realization that the decision had already been made without me. Zane froze near the hallway, clutching a Lego piece in his fist. He looked smaller in the flood of adults entering our space. Farah bent down and kissed his forehead, then squeezed his cheek too hard. "My baby," she said. "You look thin. Does your father feed you?" Zane's eyes flicked to me in panic. "I feed him," I said, keeping my tone light. "He eats fine." Farah hummed like she didn't believe me. Sana walked past, already opening doors. Closet, bathroom, guest room. She moved like she knew the layout, like the apartment belonged to her memory, not my lease. Imran dropped a bag by the couch and said casually, "Where's the Wi-Fi password? I need to connect for work." I laughed once, sharp. "Seriously?" Aisha finally looked at me. "Don't start," she said quietly. "I'm not starting," I replied, voice low. "I'm asking why nobody told me they were staying." Farah was already in our kitchen, opening cabinets. She pulled out a pot like she'd lived here. "You don't have proper spices," she announced. I felt my jaw tighten. Aisha stepped between us, still calm, still smiling for them. "We can go shopping later," she said. I watched her. She wasn't defending me. She wasn't even acknowledging the breach. She was translating it into normal. The suitcases rolled into our hallway like a verdict. Within 10 minutes, Sana had moved my shoes into a different corner because they look messy. Farah had pulled the throw blanket off the couch because this color makes the room feel cheap. Imran asked if he could use my desk because his back needs support, and then he started unplugging my monitors without asking. "Stop," I said, stepping forward. Imran paused, hands on my cable. "Relax," he said. "I'm just moving it." "That's my work setup," I snapped, then immediately heard my own volume and forced it down. "Please don't touch it." Farah turned with her lips pursed. "Why are you speaking like that in front of elders?" she asked. I stared at her. "Because he's unplugging my job." Aisha touched my arm, nails digging in lightly. "Just let it go," she whispered. That phrase, "let it go," was how she handed my boundaries to other people like spare change. I stepped back, breathing through my nose. Zane watched from the hallway, eyes wide, absorbing everything. I hated that he was learning this. Adults can invade your space and call it love. Then Farah said, bright and loud, "We should move the dining table. It blocks the flow." I blinked. "What?" Sana nodded like it was obvious. "Yeah, it's awkward. We'll slide it closer to the wall and put Zane's school stuff in the corner so it looks organized." My stomach dropped. "No," I said. "The table stays." Farah's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because it's my home. Because you can't just redesign my life. Because my son does his homework there and he likes it. Because I'm not furniture in my own marriage." I didn't say all that. I just said, "Because I said so." Silence fell. Aisha's face tightened. Not at them, at me. Sana's mouth curled. "Wow," she said. "Okay." Farah looked at Aisha, not me. "Is he always like this?" she asked softly, as if I weren't in the room. Aisha hesitated. Just a second. It was tiny, but I saw it, the moment she could choose. Then she said, "He's been stressed." Stressed. That was the first brick of a new story. Imran pulled his phone out and typed something. Sana glanced at her own screen and smiled faintly, like a message had landed right where it was supposed to. I felt that same quiet horror I feel when a system is compromised, when you don't know what's happening yet, but you know someone else is already inside. I walked toward the hallway to check on Zain, but Aisha stepped in front of me. "Give them time," she said, low. "Don't make it weird." "Time?" I repeated. "They walked in with suitcases." Aisha's eyes hardened. "They're family." "So am I," I said. She didn't answer, and in that gap Farah announced from the kitchen, "We need to have a family meeting tonight. Proper, no distractions. We will set some rules so this home can be peaceful." Rules. I looked at Zain. He'd retreated to his room, door half closed, like the world had gotten too loud. Sana glanced down the hall and said, almost casually, "Also, Aisha, I told Auntie Naila to join on video later. She wants to hear what's going on." I felt my blood go cold. Auntie Naila wasn't in our apartment. She didn't need to be. She was the kind of relative who could turn a rumor into a verdict from another state. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message preview flashed from an unknown number. "Don't disrespect her family. We're watching." I stared at it, heart pounding, because I hadn't given anyone my number recently. Then I looked up and saw Imran's phone angled toward the living room, like he was on a call, like someone else was listening to the room. Farah's voice floated in, sweet and sharp. "If you love Aisha, you will cooperate." And that's when I understood. They weren't here for tea. They were here to take control of my home, using my marriage as the front door. The family meeting happened the way storms happen in LA. Not with thunder, but with a pressure change you feel in your ears before you see the clouds. Farah made chai like she'd been born in our kitchen. Sana pushed furniture an inch at a time until the living room looked like a staged photo. Imran claimed my desk fully, laptop open, my second monitor turned toward him. Aisha floated between them like an interpreter who'd forgotten which language was mine. I found Zain in his room sitting on the floor beside his Lego bins, trying to sort pieces with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. "Hey," I said softly. "You good?" He nodded too fast. "Can we do the volcano later?" "Yeah," I promised. "Tonight, if we can." His eyes flicked past me toward the hallway. Mom said, "Just be nice." That phrase hit me wrong. Not be respectful. Not don't fight. Just be nice. Like I was a dog they were testing around guests. I stepped out and closed his door most of the way. Not fully. I didn't want him sealed in with his fear. In the living room, Aisha was setting extra plates on the dining table like she was preparing for a holiday, not an ambush. When she saw me, she lowered her voice. "Please," she said, "don't embarrass me." "Embarrass you?" I echoed and kept my tone controlled. "They showed up with suitcases. They're unplugging my work. Farah's rearranging our kitchen." Aisha's eyes flashed. "They're my family." "And I'm your husband," I said. Her jaw tightened. She glanced toward the kitchen where Farah was talking too loudly on speakerphone. Something in Urdu mixed with English words like respect and home. Aisha leaned in closer and whispered, "Just get through tonight." Get through, like a hostage negotiating an hour at a time. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown text. You have to show manners. Don't make her cry. I stared at it, my skin crawling. The number wasn't saved. The tone wasn't random. It sounded like someone who felt entitled to my behavior. I typed, "Who is this?" and watched the message sit there. No delivered check, no response. It was like my question fell into a hole. Quiet horror is realizing your own phone feels compromised, like your life is being narrated by people you can't see. At 6, Farah clapped her hands. "Okay," she announced, smiling too wide. "Everyone, table." Imran pulled his chair out like he'd been waiting for permission to take a throne. Sana carried her suitcase into the corner near the dining area and left it there on purpose, like a symbol. We're staying. Farah set her phone at the center of the table, screen up, and tapped it once. A FaceTime window opened. Auntie Nayla's face filled it. Older, severe, eyes sharp as needles. Not in our apartment, but somehow already in charge. Aisha sat on the right side of the table, posture straight, hands folded like a student. Farah took the seat beside her. Sana sat close enough to Aisha to touch her elbow. Imran took the seat across from me. I sat on the left, jaw tight, my car keys in my pocket pressing into my thigh like a reminder that I could still leave, if leaving didn't cost me my son. The scene locked into my mind like a thumbnail. 5 adults around a dining table, a phone glowing in the middle with Auntie Nayla's stern face, a suitcase parked near the wall, Zane's small backpack hanging off a chair like he'd forgotten it existed, and my hands clenched under the table while everyone else looked calm. Farah started with sweetness. "We love you," she said to me, in that tone that meant the opposite. "We want peace, but peace needs structure." "Structure," Auntie Nyla repeated from the phone, nodding slowly. "Rules." Aisha didn't look at me. She looked at her mother. Sana leaned forward, voice bright. "We made a list," she said, and slid a notebook across the table. Not toward me, toward Aisha. Imran smirked. "It's common sense stuff," he said. I waited. I kept my face neutral. My job trained me for this. Don't react, collect data. Farah spoke like she was reading a verdict. 1. No raised voices. Ever. 2. Your work stays in the workplace, not in the home. "My work is in the home sometimes," I said, calm. "I'm on call. I troubleshoot remotely. That desk is how I keep my job." Imran lifted a shoulder. "Then you should get a better job," he said. Aisha's eyes flicked to him, then away. No correction, no defense. Farah continued. 3. Zane's schedule will be managed properly. Too much screen, too many toys. He needs discipline. Zane's name made my pulse jump. I hated that he was a topic like a budget line. "Zane's fine," I said. "He's a kid." Auntie Nayla's voice came through the phone, clipped. "He's not fine if his father is unstable." My stomach tightened. Unstable? Aisha's hands flexed in her lap. Farah touched her wrist like comfort, like ownership. Sana smiled politely. "Don't take it personally," she said. "It's just the vibe. You get intense." I felt Aisha's gaze land on me for the first time all night. It wasn't love. It was a warning. "Okay," I said, voice steady. "Here's my rule. Nobody touches my work equipment. Nobody stays here without asking me. And nobody uses my son as leverage." Silence fell so hard it felt physical. Farah's smile vanished. "Leverage?" she repeated. Aisha finally spoke, low and sharp. "Don't accuse my mother of that." "I'm not accusing," I said. "I'm naming what this feels like." Auntie Nyla leaned closer to her camera, face enlarging on the phone. "This is why she needs family around," she said. "You don't understand respect." Imran's phone buzzed. He glanced down and typed quickly, thumbs flying. Sana's phone buzzed seconds later. She glanced at her screen and hid a smile. Aisha's phone buzzed too. She didn't pick it up. She didn't have to. She already knew what was being sent. Quiet horror is watching 3 phones light up at the same time and realizing your marriage is a group project you didn't sign up for. I stood up slowly, not angry, not loud, just done. "I'm going to check on Zane." Deeper silence. Aisha's voice followed me, sweet enough to sound normal if anyone recorded it. "Don't make this worse, Ryan." Hearing my name in that tone made me pause. She never used my name like that unless she wanted a witness to remember it. I walked down the hall and knocked lightly on Zane's door. "Buddy?" He opened it a crack. His eyes were red. "Are they mad?" "No," I lied. "They're just being adults." He stared at me like he didn't believe adults were safe. "I'm going to finish the volcano with you," I said. "Now. Just us." His shoulders dropped a little, like air leaving a tight balloon. We sat up in his room with vinegar and baking soda, the cheap plastic tray under the small papier-mâché mound he'd painted too bright. For 10 minutes, it was normal. He poured carefully, tongue sticking out in concentration. The foam bubbled up and spilled over the sides. He smiled. A real smile, like he'd been holding his breath all day. Then I heard my email notification sound from the living room, the one I couldn't ignore, my work laptop. I walked out and saw Imran sitting at my desk, my screen open, my company chat on display. He wasn't just using my chair, he was in my account. "What are you doing?" I asked, the words coming out low and dangerous. Imran didn't flinch. "You left it unlocked," he said casually. "I was just closing stuff." I stepped closer and saw a message thread with my manager at the top. A new message sat there, fresh, sent minutes ago from my account. Me. "I can't take calls tonight. Family emergency. Don't expect me online." My mouth went dry. I didn't send that. Imran looked up and smiled like he enjoyed the panic. "Relax. It's harmless." Aisha appeared behind me, hand to her chest like she'd walked into a tragedy. "Ryan," she whispered, "why are you yelling?" "I'm not yelling," I said, forcing my voice down. "He's in my work account." Farah's footsteps came fast. Sana followed. The whole table moved into my office corner like they'd been waiting for this moment. A thumbnail-ready freeze flashed again. Imran in my chair with my laptop open, Farah and Sana behind him, Aisha on the right side of the frame with wide, accusing eyes, me on the left with my hands open like I was trying not to explode, and Zane in the hallway clutching his backpack, staring in like he'd just walked into an accident. Aisha's voice went soft, poisonous. "You're scaring him," she said. My manager's reply popped up on the screen as if on cue. Manager. "Understood. HR will follow up tomorrow. Don't wear company gear in public if you're having issues." I felt my vision tunnel. HR, again. Different story, same weapon. Make me look unstable on paper. I leaned closer to the screen and saw something else. My calendar. An event had been added for tomorrow morning. Not by me. Family meeting. Required. Location field blank. Invite list. My manager's email. My chest tightened. "Why is my manager invited to this?" I whispered. Behind me, Farah said calmly, like she was proud, "Now everyone will understand. Peace needs witnesses." And Aisha, standing on the right side of the room, didn't deny it. She just looked at me and said quietly, "Sit down, Ryan, before you ruin everything." I didn't sit down. Aisha said it again, softer, like she was helping me. "Sit down, Ryan, before you ruin everything." Behind her, Farah and Sana stood close enough that I could smell Farah's perfume, sweet and heavy, like it was meant to cover something. Imran stayed in my chair, my laptop open, my work life bleeding onto my personal floor. Zain hovered in the hallway like a ghost, backpack strap twisted around his fingers until his knuckles went white. I kept my hands visible, palms open. "I'm not yelling," I said, controlled. "I'm asking one thing. Who touched my accounts?" Imran leaned back like he was bored. "You're dramatic," he said. "No one touched anything. You left it unlocked. That's on you." Aisha's eyes flicked to Zain, then back to me. She stepped half a pace to the right, positioning herself where she could be seen from the hallway, from the kitchen, from anywhere a phone might be pointed. "You hear how he talks?" she said, not to me, past me, for an audience. That was the second quiet horror, realizing the words weren't for my ears anymore. They were for the record. I reached for the mouse, careful, slow. "I'm logging out," I said. Imran's hand shot out and covered the trackpad. Not aggressive enough to look like a threat, just bold enough to remind me he didn't see me as an equal. "Don't," he said quietly. Farah's voice went sharp. "Ryan, stop acting like this is a crime scene." "It is," I said before I could stop myself. Then I took a breath and lowered my voice again. "It's my job. My manager is now invited to something I didn't create. HR is now in my messages. That's not normal." Sena tilted her head, smile polite. "Maybe HR needs to understand the pressure you put on Aisha," she said. Zain flinched at his mom's name like it had become a weapon. I turned my head toward him. "Zain, buddy, go back to your room," I said gently. "I'll be there in a minute." Aisha's voice snapped, sweet and lethal. "Don't order him around right now." I stared at her. "He's our son." Farah stepped in closer, blocking the desk with her body. "You will not isolate him," she said, like I'd tried to drag the kid into a basement. "He stays where we can see him." Zain's eyes filled. He didn't move. He just stood there, absorbing, learning what adults do when they want control more than they want calm. My phone buzzed again. A new message, unknown number. "Apologize to her mother, now." I didn't reply. I took a screenshot and slid the phone into my pocket like it was evidence I wasn't ready to show yet. Aisha saw the movement and tightened her jaw. "Who are you texting?" she asked. "I'm not," I said. "I'm being texted." Sana's eyes flicked away too fast. I looked back at my laptop screen. My company chat was still open. My calendar still had that event. My manager's email address still sat in the invite list like a loaded gun. I clicked into my email. A password reset notification sat near the top. "Security alert. Your recovery phone number was updated." My stomach dropped. I clicked it, heart pounding, and saw the last 4 digits of the number. Not mine. I didn't even realize I'd stopped breathing until my chest burned. Aisha noticed my face change. She stepped closer, still on the right side of the doorway like she wanted the best angle. "What is it?" she asked, but her tone wasn't concern. It was calculation. "Someone changed my recovery number," I said quietly. On my work email. Farah's expression didn't soften. It hardened into certainty. "Stop accusing," she said. "This is why we're here." Imran finally stood up, slow, and put a hand on the back of my chair like he was the owner returning to his seat. "You always think someone's attacking you," he said. "It's exhausting." I felt heat climb up my neck, but I kept my voice even. "Move," I said. "Now." Imran leaned in, low enough that only I could hear. "If you touch me," he whispered, "we'll all remember it the same way." I froze, because I understood exactly what he meant. They didn't need the truth. They needed a version that matched the story they were writing. Aisha's voice rose slightly, not loud, just performative. "Ryan, please," she said, "don't do this." My hands clenched into fists at my sides. I forced them open again, slow. "Fine," I said. "I'm stepping away." I walked to the balcony door and slid it open, letting the city air hit my face. LA smelled like warm asphalt and distant exhaust, the kind of smell that usually made me feel grounded. That night it just felt like the world was continuing without me. Behind me, through the glass, I could see them rearranging the room like furniture. Farah stood close to Aisha, speaking into her ear. Sana sat on the couch and started typing, thumbs fast. Imran leaned over my laptop again, the screen glow lighting his face like he was reading a script. Zain stood in the hallway, caught between rooms, eyes darting like he was looking for an exit that didn't exist. I pulled my phone out and called my coworker, Marcus. He answered on the second ring. "Ryan," he said, "you okay?" "No," I said, and kept my voice quiet. "Listen, something's wrong with my accounts. Someone's in my email. My manager's getting messages from me that I didn't send." Marcus cursed softly. "Are you on your laptop now?" "I was," I said. "They're in my house, family, and they're touching my stuff." A pause. Then Marcus's voice turned steady. "Don't fight them. Do you have another device? Can you log in and revoke sessions?" "I'm trying," I said. My phone buzzed while I was talking. A work voicemail notification popped up. I tapped it, put it on speaker low, and listened while Marcus stayed silent on the line. My manager's voice came through, clipped and uncomfortable. "Ryan, HR has concerns about your behavior and your stability. Do not contact staff tonight. Be in the office at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring any documentation you have." Stability. The word hit like a bruise. Marcus exhaled. "They're already framing it," he said quietly. "What did you do?" "Nothing," I said. "That's the point." I ended the call and stared through the glass again. Aisha looked up and met my eyes. For a second, there was something like fear in her face. Then it vanished, replaced by that calm she'd been wearing all day. She lifted her phone and turned the screen toward Farah and Sana like she was showing them a successful result. Then, like the universe wanted to make sure I didn't miss it, my work email sent another alert. Multi-factor authentication enabled. I hadn't enabled it. My throat went tight. I tried to log in from my phone. The app asked for a verification code sent to a number I didn't recognize. The same last 4 digits. Quiet horror is realizing you're locked out of your own identity while you're standing 10 feet away from the person doing it. I slid the balcony door open and walked back inside, forcing myself not to rush. Rushing looks guilty. Emotion looks unstable. I could feel the trap tightening around every expression. Aisha was on the couch, posture perfect, face soft for any camera. Farah stood behind her like a guard. Imran sat at my desk again, and Sana was perched on the arm of the couch with her phone glowing. Zayn had moved closer to Aisha's side, as if magnetized by her authority. She kept one hand on his shoulder, not comforting, claiming. I walked toward my desk and stopped a few feet away. "I want my laptop," I said. Imran didn't look up. "No." Aisha spoke gently, like she was reasonable. "Ryan, stop. You're spiraling." "I'm not spiraling," I said. "I'm being robbed, in my own house." Farah's voice cut through. "Lower your tone." My tone wasn't high, but her instruction wasn't about sound. It was about hierarchy. I turned my head toward Aisha. "Talk to me alone," I said. 5 minutes, no audience." Aisha didn't move. Her eyes flicked to Farah, then to Sana, then back to me. And in that moment, I understood she wasn't deciding what she wanted. She was deciding what she was allowed to want. "I can't," she said quietly. I nodded once like I'd just received a diagnosis. "Okay," I said. "Then I'm calling my manager back and telling him my account is compromised." Sana's smile vanished. Imran's head snapped up. Farah's eyes sharpened. Aisha stood fast, stepping into my path with her body, still on the right side of the room, still framed. "Don't," she said, voice low. "You'll embarrass us." "Us," I repeated, stunned. "Or you." Aisha's eyes glistened instantly like tears were a switch. "You always do this," she whispered just loud enough for everyone to hear. "You make me choose." Behind her, Zayn's face crumpled. He grabbed her sleeve with shaking fingers like he was trying to hold her together. And right then, my phone buzzed with one more message, this time from a saved contact. My landlord. "Hey, got a complaint about yelling. Everything okay?" I stared at it, blood cold, because nobody outside these walls should have known anything yet. Then I looked up and saw Sana holding her phone at chest height, angled slightly toward the room, not fully recording, but close enough. Imran leaned back in my chair and said softly, almost amused, "See? Witnesses." I felt the floor tilt, because if my landlord had already been contacted, then tomorrow's HR meeting wasn't the real threat. The real threat was that they were building a paper trail tonight, one complaint at a time, and my son was standing in the middle of it, clutching his mother like she was the only safe thing left. The apartment felt smaller after the landlord text. Not physically, our walls were the same, the ceiling the same, but the air had changed. Like the whole place had become a glass box and I was the thing inside everyone was tapping on to see what it would do. Aisha kept her hand on Zayn's shoulder, thumb moving in slow circles that looked comforting if you didn't know better. Farah stood behind her like a shadow with opinions. Sana perched at the edge of the couch like she was waiting for the next line in a script. Imran's fingers clicked on my keyboard, steady and casual, like he was doing me a favor. I walked toward the hallway, not fast, not angry. I needed space. I needed my son away from whatever this was. I needed 10 seconds where I wasn't being watched like a suspect. Farah shifted, blocking the path without touching me. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To the bathroom," I said. Sana's lips curled. "Dramatic." I kept walking anyway. The bathroom door clicked shut behind me and the lock sounded louder than it should have. I leaned over the sink and stared at my own reflection, trying to find the moment where I'd become the villain in my own home. My phone buzzed again. A new email alert. This time not from work. From my building's resident portal. Notice: community disturbance complaint received. No details, no proof, Just a clean little line that would sit in a file and grow legs later. I exhaled slowly and opened my camera app. Not to film people, but to ground myself. If I could see something through a lens, it felt real. I took one photo of the complaint email, then another screenshot of the landlord text, then I saved them into a folder I named with today's date. Timestamps. Proof. Calm. When I opened the bathroom door, I stopped cold. Imran was standing in the hallway, not near the desk, not near his luggage. In my space, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Cheap, aggressive. He leaned against the wall like he'd been assigned to guard me. "You okay?" he asked, too polite to be genuine. "Move," I said. He didn't move. "You're making this bigger than it is," he murmured. I tried to step past. He shifted just slightly, forcing me to stop without physically blocking me. It was subtle, the kind of move that would look innocent if someone filmed it. My pulse thudded. "Get out of my way." Imran smiled faintly. "You should breathe. You're getting that look again." "What look?" "The look that makes people call," he said softly. Then he glanced over my shoulder toward the living room. "They're trying to help you not ruin your life." Quiet horror is realizing someone is describing your face like it's evidence. I stepped back into the bathroom and closed the door again, then waited until I heard his footsteps retreat down the hall. Only then did I come out. The living room had shifted while I was gone. My suitcase was in the corner. Not Farah's, not Sana's. Mine. It sat half-zipped with the handle up, like it had been dragged out of my closet and positioned as a suggestion. Beside it, on the coffee table, was my stack of mail. Opened. Not neatly. Torn like someone had been searching, impatient. An envelope from the bank lay on top, and my stomach tightened because I hadn't even seen it come in. Aisha noticed my eyes lock on it and spoke before I could. "We're not kicking you out," she said quickly, voice gentle for the room. "We're just giving you space, so Zane can relax." "I didn't pack a suitcase," I said. Farah tilted her head like I was slow. "We did," she replied. "You need cooling time." Sana lifted her phone, pretending she wasn't filming. "This is the best solution," she said. Zane stood near the couch, still anchored by Aisha's hand. His eyes looked tired, the way kids look when they've been forced to stay quiet for too long. He stared at my suitcase like it was a monster. "I'm not leaving my son in a house where people are hacking my work accounts," I said, keeping my voice level. Aisha's eyebrows knit together. "Hacking?" she repeated, louder than necessary. Imran's chair scraped near the desk. "Stop accusing," he said. I turned toward him and saw my laptop screen again. My company chat open, my calendar open, and a new tab, the building portal. Someone had logged into it. My name at the top. My throat went tight. "You're in my building account, too." Imran shrugged without shame. "It's easy when you don't secure your stuff." Aisha stepped between us, right side of the room, face soft. "Ryan, please," she said. "Don't do this in front of Zane." My hands shook, but I kept them open at my sides. "Zane," I said gently, "buddy, go to your room and put headphones on, okay?" Farah snapped, "No." I looked at her. "Why?" "Because we need to witness," she said, calm as ice. "So later, nobody can lie." That sentence made my skin prickle. Later, nobody can lie. Like the truth was a thing they could manufacture as long as enough people were in the frame. A thumbnail-ready moment froze in my mind. Me on the left, near my desk, palms open, trying to stay calm. Imran sitting in my chair with my laptop glowing. Farah standing center with her chin raised. Sana on the couch with her phone angled toward us. Aisha on the right, gripping Zane's shoulder. Zane staring at my half-packed suitcase with wet, exhausted eyes. And the torn bank envelope on the coffee table like a clue nobody was talking about. I walked to the coffee table and picked up the bank envelope. Aisha's breath hitched like I'd grabbed a weapon. Inside was a printed notice. Dry language, neat font. Your contact information was updated. There it was again. Not just work, not just HR. My banking contact had been altered too. Aisha watched me read it and spoke too fast. "That's probably automatic," she said. "Automatic doesn't change my phone number," I replied. Farah's voice cut in. "Stop shouting." "I'm not shouting," I said, and hated that I had to say it. I pulled my phone out and dialed my manager. Then I stopped, finger hovering, and looked straight at Aisha. "I'm calling him," I said, calm. "I'm telling him my account is compromised." Aisha moved fast. Too fast. She lunged, not at me, but at my phone, trying to knock it down without grabbing it. The phone slipped in my hand and my finger hit the call button anyway. It rang once. Aisha froze, eyes wide. Farah took a step forward. Sana's phone lifted higher. Imran stood up like he was ready to intercept me. On the second ring, my manager picked up. "Ryan." I didn't get to speak, because Farah's voice rose behind me, loud enough to carry through the phone with perfect clarity. "He's having an episode," she announced. "We're trying to keep him calm." The words hit like a slap. Episode. That one word turned my controlled breathing into pathology. My manager's voice tightened instantly. "Ryan, what's going on?" I turned slightly, keeping my phone close to my mouth, trying to salvage this. "My account is compromised," I said. "Someone changed my recovery number. Someone's sending messages from me." Aisha's voice, soft, practiced, slid right into the line of fire. "He's not sleeping," she told the room like she was explaining a symptom. "He's paranoid. He thinks my family is hacking him." Zane made a small sound like a choke. He grabbed Aisha's sleeve with both hands, trembling, and she tightened her grip on him like he was a shield. My manager hesitated. "Ryan," he said slowly, "I need you to stop contacting work tonight. HR is already involved. We'll handle this in the morning." "We," I repeated, stomach dropping. My manager lowered his voice like he was trying to help. "For everyone's safety, just stand down. We'll talk at 9. Stand down. Like I was armed. I ended the call before my voice could crack. The room went very quiet. Then Sana said, almost tender, "See, this is why you should leave tonight." I stared at my suitcase. The suggestion had become an expectation. The expectation was becoming a threat. Aisha stepped closer, eyes glossy, voice low so it sounded intimate. "Please," she whispered, "just go cool off. One night. For Zane." "And if I don't?" I asked, still calm. Farah answered for her, voice steady as a knife. "Then we do what we have to do." "What does that mean?" Farah didn't blink. "It means we make sure the boy is protected." A slow, sick understanding spread through my chest. Protected could mean anything. Protected could mean police. Protected could mean paperwork. Protected could mean I walk out as a husband and come back as a visitor. My phone buzzed again, this time a notification from the building portal. Door lock code updated. I stared at it, blood going cold, because our unit didn't have a keypad, unless someone had just added one. I lifted my eyes from the screen and looked toward the front door, and that's when I noticed it. A small black device mounted near the deadbolt that hadn't been there this morning. Clean, new, blinking a tiny blue light like an unblinking eye. Aisha followed my gaze. Her face didn't show surprise. It showed relief, like the lock was the answer. And then, from the hallway, Zane whispered, barely audible, "Dad, why is Nana putting my backpack by the door?" My stomach dropped, because I hadn't seen Farah move it, but I could already imagine what it meant, and I could already hear the next knock coming. The little blue light on the new keypad blinked like it was breathing. I stood there in my own living room, staring at my front door like it had betrayed me. That device hadn't been there when I left for groceries yesterday. It hadn't been there this morning when I made Zane cereal. And now it sat beside the deadbolt like a quiet new judge, waiting to decide who belonged. Aisha watched my face and didn't ask a single question. No. Where did that come from? No, that's weird. Just that tiny exhale of relief, like the lock was an answer she'd been praying for. "Dad?" Zane whispered again from the hallway. "Why is Nana putting my backpack by the door?" I turned my head and saw Farah near the entryway with Zane's backpack open on the floor. She wasn't packing clothes. She was packing proof. She slipped a folded paper into the front pocket, then zipped it up with the calm efficiency of someone who'd done this before. "Farah," I said, keeping my voice low, "what are you doing?" She didn't even look at me. "We're preparing," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For peace," Sana answered from the couch, phone glowing in her hand like a little altar. Imran's chair scraped at my desk and I heard the soft, familiar click of my keyboard again. He was still in my accounts, still in my life. The apartment was full of them and somehow I was the one being treated like an intruder. Aisha stepped toward me, staying on the right side of the room as if she could feel where the camera would be if someone raised a phone. "Ryan," she said softly, "don't make this ugly." "It's already ugly," I replied, still controlled. "My recovery number got changed. My building portal got accessed. And now there's a new lock on my door." Farah finally looked up. Her eyes were steady, almost bored. "You needed structure," she said. "Now you have it." I heard Zane make a small, tight sound in the hallway, like he'd swallowed a sob. I moved toward him, but Aisha shifted with me, not touching me, just cutting my angle off like a defender in basketball. "Let me talk to him," I said. Aisha's eyes flicked to her mother before she answered. "Later." "Now," I insisted, and hated how that one word would sound if someone clipped it. Sana's phone tilted slightly, just a few degrees, and I felt my skin prickle. I could almost see tomorrow's version of me already edited. The tense face, the firm voice, the man who refused to calm down. I forced my hands open. "Zane," I said gently. "Buddy, come here." He took one step toward me, then stopped. His eyes slid to Aisha, then to Farah, like he was asking permission to exist. Farah spoke sweetly, loud enough to carry. "Stay close to your mother." Zane didn't move. That was the quiet horror. My son obeying fear more than love because fear was being coached by adults. Then the knock came. Not a neighbor knock, not a delivery knock. A hard, official knock that made my whole body go cold. Aisha's chin lifted, like she'd been expecting it. Sana sat up straighter. Imran closed my laptop partway like he didn't want anyone else to see what he'd been doing. Farah slid Zane's backpack upright beside the door, perfectly placed. The knock came again. A man's voice followed, calm and professional. Los Angeles Police Department. Welfare check. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like my organs shifted. Aisha didn't look surprised. She looked ready. She opened the door and stepped aside like she was welcoming help. Two officers stood there, one older, one younger, both scanning the room the way my eyes scanned a server rack when something was overheating. Calm faces, quick inventory. Who's crying? Who's loud? Who's calm in a way that looks rehearsed? "Ma'am," the older officer said, "we got a call about a domestic disturbance and concerns about a child." Aisha's voice went soft immediately. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't want it to get to this." I felt my jaw tighten. "What are you talking about?" I asked. The younger officer looked past Aisha and spotted Zane in the hallway. "Hey, buddy," he said gently. "You okay?" Zane's eyes flicked to me, then to Aisha. He looked like his brain was trying to solve a puzzle with no right answer. Farah stepped forward, smiling like she belonged there. "The boy is frightened," she said calmly. "We are trying to keep him safe." The older officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, step back," he said to Farah without heat, just authority. "We need to speak with the parents." Aisha's hand tightened on Zane's shoulder. Not comfort, control. The older officer turned to me. "Sir, what's your name?" "Ryan," I said. "I live here. There's no disturbance except the one they brought into my house." Aisha let out a small shaky breath like I'd threatened her with air. "See?" she whispered, and it made my skin crawl because it was so perfectly timed. The younger officer crouched slightly, voice gentle. "Zane, can you tell me if you feel safe at home?" Zane's lips trembled. He stared at the floor for a long second. I kept my voice calm, careful. "Zane," I said, "you're not in trouble. Just tell the truth." Farah's voice floated in, sweet as sugar. "Just answer, baby. Are you scared when Daddy gets intense?" Zane flinched at the word Daddy, like it had been sharpened. Aisha leaned her face toward him, whispering something I couldn't hear. Her eyes were glossy, but her posture was steady. A performer holding a child like a prop. Zane swallowed hard and whispered, "Sometimes." Aisha's breath caught in a way that sounded like pain and looked like victory. The older officer nodded slowly and turned to me. "Sir," he said, "I need you to step outside with me for a moment." "I'm not leaving my son," I said, and my voice stayed level, but my chest felt like it was caving in. "You're not leaving him," the officer replied. "You're stepping outside so we can talk and de-escalate." De-escalate. The word that always meant remove the man. I glanced at Zane. His eyes were wet. He was trying to be brave and failing. I stepped onto the porch anyway because I could see the trap. If I refused, I'd be non-compliant. If I raised my voice, I'd be unstable. If I touched Imran, I'd be violent. There was no move left that didn't get rewritten. Outside, the older officer kept his voice low. "Sir, the call said there were threats, yelling, and that you were trying to keep the child from leaving." "That's not true," I said. "They showed up with suitcases and started taking over. Someone changed my accounts. They installed a lock on my door." The officer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Installed a lock?" I pulled out my phone with careful, visible hands and opened the building portal notification, then the banking contact update, then the work recovery number change. I showed him the timestamps like they were the only things in my life that still behaved logically. The officer's expression shifted, just a fraction. Not belief, not disbelief, concern. Inside, through the open door, I could see them clustered behind Aisha. Farah close at her shoulder, Sana with her phone held low, Imran hovering near my desk, the younger officer speaking to Zain with his calm voice while my son stared at his own shoes like they were safer than any adult face. Then Aisha's voice carried out to the porch, loud enough to be heard. "He hasn't been sleeping," she said. "He's paranoid. He thinks we're all against him." The older officer looked at me carefully. "Sir," he said, "do you have somewhere else you can stay tonight?" My stomach dropped again. "This is my home." "I understand," he said, "but if she's asking for space and the child is saying he's scared, this can go bad fast." Go bad. Handcuffs, a report, a file, a story I'd spent months trying to correct. From inside, I heard Zain's voice, small and shaky. "Mom said, Nana said, if Dad tries to leave, I should stay close to Mom." I froze. The older officer's head turned toward the doorway. "What was that?" he asked. The younger officer stepped out holding a folded paper in his hand. "This was in the child's backpack," he said. "It's instructions." My blood went cold as the paper opened in his fingers and I recognized Aisha's handwriting instantly. On the porch, under that bright light, the words looked too clean, too deliberate. In English, like they'd been written for a future reader. And Aisha, standing on the right side of the doorway behind the officers, didn't look shocked. She looked like she'd been waiting for that paper to appear. The older officer lifted his eyes back to me, voice suddenly firmer. "Sir," he said, "I need you to tell me right now. Are you trying to leave with the child tonight?" I couldn't breathe for a second, because the wrong answer, in the wrong tone, would become the only truth that mattered. I could feel the older officer waiting for me to talk myself into a corner. His question hung in the porch light like a trap. "Are you trying to leave with the child tonight?" I kept my hands visible and my voice flat, the way I spoke to angry clients when the network was down and everyone wanted someone to blame. "No," I said. "I'm not taking him anywhere tonight. I'm trying to keep him calm while adults turn my home into a courtroom." The younger officer held the folded paper, Aisha's handwriting, like it was heavier than it looked. "Then explain why your son has instructions for what to do if you try to leave," he said, eyes steady. Inside, I heard Aisha's voice rise, controlled and thin. "It's for safety," she called. "He gets intense. He scares us." Farah added, loud enough to be helpful. "He is unstable. He thinks we are attacking him." The older officer's eyes narrowed just a fraction. "Sir," he said to me, "I'm going to speak to your wife alone for a minute. Then I'm going to speak to your son alone. Do not go back inside unless I tell you to." I nodded. I didn't like it, but I could recognize a system when it shifted. The note had jammed their clean story. Not enough to save me yet, but enough to make the officers slow down. From the porch, I watched the living room like it was a fish tank. Aisha stood on the right side of the doorway with her hand locked on Zain's shoulder. Sana's phone stayed low, angled toward faces. Imran hovered near my desk like he owned the oxygen in the room. Farah kept moving Zain's backpack a few inches at a time, positioning it like a prop. The younger officer returned first and gently waved Zain toward the hallway. "Hey, buddy," he said soft. "Can we talk right here?" Zain's eyes flicked to Aisha. She gave him a tiny nod that looked supportive if you didn't know better. Zain walked, shoulders hunched like he was carrying a secret too big for his spine. The older officer stepped back onto the porch and shut the door most of the way behind him, lowering his voice. "Your wife says you've been paranoid, controlling, and that you threatened to take the child if she didn't listen," he said. I felt heat flash behind my eyes, but I swallowed it. "That's not true," I said. "There's a new lock on my door that I didn't install. My work recovery number was changed. My building portal shows a disturbance complaint I didn't make. My accounts are being accessed from inside my own home." He studied me. "Do you have proof that someone else accessed your accounts?" I opened my phone and scrolled carefully, showing him the alerts, the timestamps, the last 4 digits of the recovery number, the building portal notice, the bank contact change. Then I showed him the texts from unknown numbers demanding I apologize and show manners, and the landlord message about yelling that arrived before I'd even raised my voice. The officer's expression didn't turn into belief. It turned into something more important: caution. Inside, the younger officer's voice floated through the cracked door. "Zane, did someone tell you what to say tonight?" There was a pause, one of those quiet pauses that tells you a child is looking at the adults in his head. Then Zane's voice, tiny and shaking. "Mom said, stay close. Nana said, if Dad tries to leave, I should say I'm scared." My chest clenched so hard it hurt. The older officer turned his head sharply toward the door. His posture changed. Not aggressive, just awake. He opened the door and stepped inside. I followed only when he motioned me in. The living room was frozen in a perfect picture. Aisha on the right with wet eyes and a steady chin. Farah centered behind her like a judge. Sana with her phone mid-tilt. Imran by my desk with my laptop half-closed. Zane near the hallway with his backpack by the door like he was about to be relocated. The older officer held up the note. "Ma'am," he said to Aisha, "did you write this?" Aisha's eyes flashed toward Farah. For half a second her face wasn't soft. It was calculating. She began. Farah jumped in. "It is for safety," she said. "He gets angry." The older officer raised a hand. "I'm not asking you," he said, voice firmer now. "I'm asking her." Aisha swallowed. "Yes," she said quietly. "I wrote it." "And you told him what to say tonight?" the younger officer asked. Aisha's chin lifted. "I told him to tell the truth," she said, and her voice sounded practiced. "He's scared." Zane's eyes filled. He looked at me like he wanted to run but didn't know where safe was anymore. Quiet horror is hearing your kid used as proof by the people who taught him the sentence. The older officer glanced at the lock near the door, the little blue light blinking. "When was this installed?" he asked. Aisha hesitated again. Sana's phone dipped lower. Farah answered, too fast. "Today." "And the code update notice?" the older officer pressed. Aisha's voice went small. "My mother arranged it," she said, almost like she was blaming Farah without daring to. The older officer nodded once, then looked at me. "Sir," he said, "tonight I need separation. Not because I'm saying you're guilty, because this situation is volatile and there's a child in the middle. Do you have somewhere stable to go?" I stared at Zane. He was trembling, trying not to cry in front of the adults who were grading his emotions. "I do," I said, because I understood the math. A wrong move tonight becomes paperwork tomorrow. I walked to Zane and crouched a few feet away, not touching him, not cornering him. "Buddy," I said softly, "I'm not leaving you. I'm stepping away so nobody can twist tonight into something worse. You tell the truth when you can. I love you." Zane nodded fast, tears spilling anyway. Aisha watched me like she wanted to hate me and needed me to explode instead. I didn't. I left with nothing but my phone and my keys, and the sick knowledge that my own home now had a lock I didn't control. I spent the night on Marcus's couch, staring at the ceiling while LA traffic hissed in the distance like the city didn't care who was losing custody of what. At 2:11 a.m., Marcus's wife handed me a spare charger and a blanket. No questions, just human kindness that made my throat burn. In the morning, I called my company's IT security line the second it opened. I gave them one sentence that made everything shift. My work account recovery number was changed without my consent. They walked me through an emergency reset, verified my identity, and pulled the session log. The tech paused. "You have active sign-ins from a device in your building," he said. "Not your usual device." My stomach twisted. "Can you document that?" I asked. "Yes," he said, and emailed a summary to my personal address. Then I remembered something small and stupid that saved me. The old tablet Zane used for homework, the one that stayed logged into our shared family email because nobody cared enough to log out. Marcus brought it from my car. I opened it with shaking hands. The notifications I'd stopped seeing on my phone were still there. A message preview sat on the screen like a knife left out on purpose. Aisha and Mr. Carter, Zane's teacher. My throat went tight. My finger hovered, then tapped. The thread opened and the air left my lungs. "I can't do this with him in the house," Aisha had written. Mr. Carter replied, "The order will give you space. Just stick to the plan. Make sure Zane says he's scared." Aisha, "Mom brought the note. He found it." Mr. Carter, "If he pushes back, call again. Keep your tone soft. Let others speak over him. HR already has what they need." I stared until the words blurred, because it wasn't just betrayal. It was coordination. It was my life being managed by a man who graded my son's homework. A voice note sat in the thread, accidentally sent. I pressed play. Aisha's voice filled the room, low and breathless, and I could hear a car door close in the background. "I can't wait for this to be over," she whispered. "After today, I'll finally be free. Meet me after dismissal. Same spot." Marcus's living room went silent. Quiet horror is realizing the person you married wasn't just leaving you. She was building a whole exit with other people holding the nails. I didn't scream. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't do anything dramatic that could be clipped into a story. I started making calls. I reported the unauthorized banking changes and froze what I could. I forwarded the IT security log to HR and requested that all footage be independently verified. I called the school and asked for the principal and the counselor, and I used careful words. Inappropriate relationship, coercion of a minor's statements, custody interference. By afternoon, I was sitting in a small office with beige walls while the principal's face turned pale as he read the messages. Mr. Carter wasn't in the meeting. They said he was unavailable. The counselor kept her hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. Across the desk, I slid my phone forward with the texts, the note photo, the IT log, and the voice note transcript. The principal's voice shook. "We're placing him on administrative leave pending investigation," he said. Outside the school office, I saw Aisha in the hallway, on the right side of the frame without even trying, Farah beside her like armor, Sana hovering with her phone tucked away for once. Aisha's eyes met mine, and the softness was gone. She knew I'd found it. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something, and then she saw the principal behind me and stopped. That moment, her stopping, was the closest thing to a confession I ever got. The custody stuff didn't resolve in a cinematic snap. Real life doesn't. It resolved in paperwork, temporary orders, supervised exchanges, and 1,000 small humiliations where I had to stay calm while my son's world got rearranged like furniture. But the unstable husband story didn't survive contact with evidence, and the biggest secret, the one they'd built the lock and the note and the calls around, finally had a name in a file that wasn't mine. In the first supervised exchange, Zane walked toward me slowly, backpack tight to his chest, eyes scanning adult faces like he was still afraid of getting it wrong. I knelt, kept my voice gentle. "Hey, buddy," I said, "you don't have to carry adult secrets." His lip trembled. "Mom said." "I had to." "I know," I said, "and I'm not mad at you. Not ever." He leaned into me like his body had been waiting for permission to trust again. In that moment, I understood something I didn't want to learn this way. Love isn't just feelings. It's boundaries. It's proof. It's staying steady while other people try to make your reaction the crime. And it's protecting your kid from any adult, family, community, teacher, who treats his fear like a tool.